Now we're going to discuss how to save images from Photoshop for the web. Now, when preparing graphics for online use, it's important to make sure that you've met some basic formatting guidelines. Some of the main things that you're going to have to take into consideration when creating web and email friendly images include how to adjust the image's dimensions so they're the correct size, what file format to use, because different file formats contain varying degrees of information, and how to save and compress the file. So when resizing an image, it's important to take into consideration the resolution. And when you're printing, you want high resolution because you want all those pixels to be there for a clear, sharp image. However, when you're looking at images on the web, pixel dimensions are more important. So if you reduce an image's pixel dimensions before posting or emailing it, then you're not using data or bloating receivers' inboxes with images that are too big. Now, if you're a designer and you're posting an image for an online application, then you may be provided the actual specifications for your project. However, if you're designing the website, creating the project, then you'll probably need to pick the size. So there are a couple of basic guidelines, and these can be found on page 767 in the book. 800 pixels by 600 pixels, or 600 pixels by 800 pixels. This is a general size if you're sending a photo or design sample to a client that does not need to be printed. It's just about big enough to fill a web browser window. So now 640 pixels by 480 pixels, or 480 by 640, these are the dimensions to use if you're emailing someone a photograph or posting it online. This image is going to be big enough to be seen well, but it's less than 1 megabyte, so it transfers fast and doesn't use a lot of data. 320 by 240 pixels, or 240 by 320, if you're sending people multiple images, then this is the size that you would want to crop your images to or resize your images to prior to sending them. And we're talking about photographs here. 100 pixels by 133 pixels, or 133 by 100. If you're doing headshots, then these dimensions are the best dimensions for headshots if you're posting them to a company website or placing them on a forum, etc. Now for Save for Web, you'll go File, Export, then you come down and you select Save for Web. In the Save for Web dialog box opens. Now a quick overview will show you that to the left we have our Save for Web dialog box tools. Down at the bottom you can adjust the zoom level of your image. And so let's go ahead and bring our zoom level down so we can see most of, at least part of our image. You can use your hand tool to rearrange the image. Up here we have our display options. Right over here we have our optimized pop-up menu, so you can select your preset, and then you can select if you want 2 up, 4 up, etc. as well. And that's done through the tabs here above the image. Now if you want to preview your image, right down here, in which case you click that and it will bring the image up and show you what it would look like in a browser window. And so you can click preview and that will allow you to preview it in the browser. If you want to select another preview, you can select that from this drop down here. Here's your save, cancel, done. And then over here to the right are all the options that you have when saving for the web. Now, optimized is going to display the image with the current optimization settings applied to it. 2 up will display 2 different versions of the image side by side, and 4 up will display 4 different versions of the images side by side and on top of each other. And so what you can do is, here's your original, and you can go in and you can individually select each of these previews and compare them here on the screen. And so you've got GIF files, PNG files, and JPEGs, etc. A lot of different options. Now let's discuss some of the different file types right quick. JPEG is what you want to use for photographs. This format supports millions of colors, although, as we've discussed previously, it's a lossy format. So the more times you save it, it loses quality and it throws away details in order to create smaller files. A GIF is what you want to use if it's an image that contains blocks of colors. If you're dealing with vector art or line art, especially black and white with no shades of gray, or images made out of areas of solid color, such as logos, comic strips, etc., then a GIF is the way to go. It does support fewer colors than a JPEG, so it does not work well on photos or on images that have gradients or gray, etc. So with a GIF, you can select the amount of colors you want. They're listed over here, what it's showing. And this is my GIF image that I'm seeing here. And again, you can see the blockiness because we don't have that graduation that you would see with a JPEG. Preview, I can select monitor color, legacy, Macintosh, etc. Leave that on monitor color. This doesn't affect your image gamma, and it's the default. The others are going to attempt to simulate gammas for Windows or Mac machines or specific document profiles, etc. So monitor color is a good default for all your settings. We want to convert to sRGB, so go ahead and leave that checked. Now, if you have an image that has a transparent background, you want to make sure that you use a GIF or a PNG file or PNG file when you save that image, and that will preserve the transparency. PNG files are also good for very high quality files. So if quality is more important than download speed, save your image as a PNG. If you're a photographer trying to sell your images, use PNG 8 for enlarged versions in your portfolio, and that will enable potential clients to see every little detail in your images. Now a PNG 24 image right here, that is one that you would use for super high quality transparent images. So don't overuse those unless necessary. PNG 8 is fine for photo quality images with lots of detail. Now WBMP is a format which is black and white. And this format you would only want to use for images that are going to be viewed on mobile devices like smartphone. You're limiting the size of the file. It's only black and white. Will have crisp text and show logos well on small screens. Now there is a lot of information over every single one of these different sliders and settings in your chapter, and I would highly recommend that you go through and read that so that you can make the best selection. But once again, the most important thing to take into consideration is who's receiving it, how are you going to be sending it, how is it going to be viewed, and how many of the different images are you going to be sending at the same time. Are you sending several via email, etc.? So for a photograph, I would not want WBMP, so I'm just going to go back to JPEG. I'm going to select JPEG for all 4 of these. And you can see here that here's my original size. And then here, this is what it looks like at 60 quality. And these are all 3 at 60 quality. So what I want to start doing is sliding my quality slider down so I can compare the images. I'm trying to get a good looking picture without sacrificing my quality. And so as we can see, you can come down quite a bit and it's not affecting the quality of this image that much at all. Different images, depending on how detailed they are, etc., are going to be affected differently. So you can select the one you want. After you have one that you think you'll like, you can select preview, and that will open it in a window. You can see what it looks like. If you find that preview acceptable, then you can go ahead and select save, place it where you want it to be, and you're good to go. Now I want to discuss with you animating GIFs. That's something that we haven't done yet, and so what you're going to see here is I have a vector that I've got 3 different views of on 3 different layers. I'm going to go to Window and open Timeline, and then down here under the document where my timeline opens, I'm going to click this arrow going down and select Create Frame Animation. And I'm going to make my timeline a little bit larger. Alright, so now I'm ready to click my Create Frame Animation button. And so it adds my first frame. Now I'm ready to add a second frame. Alright, so next I'm going to click the Duplicate Frame button, and a second frame is added. It's going to duplicate the first one, but we'll switch this out. And then I'm going to turn off the visibility of all the layers except for the one that I'm wanting. And notice how it replaced that there. And I can rearrange my frames however I want. I'm going to duplicate it again and turn off the frames that I don't want to use, and I can come and rearrange just by dragging the 3 frames around. Now, to adjust the timing, I can just click down here on the timing of each of the frames, and I'm putting them at ½ a second each, so then I can come back and select my first one, click play, and we see my ball bouncing. If I put it at 1 second, it may be a little bit easier to see. Now, if I click play, there we go. And that's how easy it is to create an animated GIF. And so what you're going to do is you're going to create a document that is 5 inches by 5 inches at a resolution of 72 and RGB color mode, and you're going to create something that has 5 different layers. This one that I demonstrated to you has 3 different layers. And you're going to create, it can be a bouncing ball or something that shows movement, and you're going to create an animated GIF following the steps on page 780. And then you're going to save that as a PSD file as 17A underscore your last name underscore GIF, GIF, and turn that in your chapter 17 folder. Now, for 17B, you're going to need to follow the directions on page 783 for saving your animation. And so once you have your animation created, you're going to go File, Export, Save for the Web. I'm going to zoom out here because we're just zoomed in to see the one. I'm going to select GIF here. And once you've selected GIF, you can click Save. It's going to ask where you want it. And remember, this is 17B underscore your last name underscore GIF underscore GIF. And it's a .gif file. Place that in your chapter 17 folder. Click Save. And now when you view that file and double click on it, you see my animation. And that's 17B. Again, the directions for saving it are on the bottom of page 783 and top of page 784 for how to save it for the web as an animated GIF. Be sure the PSD file showing your timeline is turned in as 17A. Now the last thing we're going to discuss is how you go about prepping larger images for websites, and you can do that through slicing an image. So once you've created an image or a design that you want to place on the web, maybe it's larger than what you think will load, you can slice it up so that the headline loads and then individual parts of the image load individually, and that's called slicing. And for this assignment, you're going to need to go to the Chapter 17 work file and get the single image that's there. And that image is actually a screenshot of TSTC's current website. So let's load that. And so you're going to slice that up. Now that's done using the slice tool. And the first step is going to be placing guides where to slice. And so I'm going to place guides where I want you to slice the image. Now once I have my guides in place, you can come up here and select Slices from Guides, and it will automatically create these 9 slices for you. If you want to make customized slices, you can use the Slice tool and go in and add additional slices however you wish. After you've done the slices from guides, you're going to create one final slice around the computer in the center. And you see that now you have multiple slices created. Undo that because it's not necessary. That's just to demonstrate how the slice tool works. When you're through with that, go ahead and save that as 17C _ your last name slice.psd. And you can read more about slices and how they're used in web design on pages 788 and 789 in the book. Because as you can see, once you have slices created, you can go in and you can modify the slices, divide them, combine them, copy and paste, add links, etc. Once again, I strongly encourage you to read the chapter. You don't have long videos for this chapter, and there is not a lot of chapter work either, so that leaves plenty of time to read the chapter.